Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bethany. I'm a future author and spiritual life coach, and on this channel we are talking about the false beliefs taught to women in the church, sharing church horror stories, and navigating through spiritual trauma. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, why in the world does it look like Bethany just woke up? Because I did. Let me tell you a little story. I had to wake up early this morning to re-record a part of a video that I took the other day. Listen, I was super excited because I was ahead of schedule in recording, and I was going to edit an hour-long video, which is this one that you're going to see, which isn't an hour long now, but when I was editing it was about an hour, and about 15 minutes of it, the audio decided to just not work. So I sounded like a robot for about 15 minutes, and I tried to fix it, but I couldn't. So now I'm just re-recording the part that I sounded like a freaking robot, and I don't know why it happened. We're praying it never happens again. So we're waking up in the morning because your girl still has a job and I have to go to work. So this was the only time really that I could sit down, have a moment to myself, and really record. And so I was like, girl, we're not doing makeup, we're not doing nothing, we're in our robe, we got our coffee, and we're just coming at it, right? Going back to the intro, in today's video we are talking about something huge in the Christian community. Here we go. Today we are talking all about Christians and purity culture as a whole, the slogan, modest is hottest, and why purity culture could be harmful. Let me side note here, everything that I'm talking about, little disclaimer, everything that I talk about today is my own personal experience. You could have been raised in a strict Christian household and a strict Christian church upbringing, whatever, and not have experienced that, and that's completely fine too. This is only my experience, and I know experiences of others, and that is why I am talking about it. On to the video. In the household that I was raised in and the church that I grew up in, purity was, again in my experience, ranked super close to your salvation. So it was your salvation and purity. That's how it was taught, and that is my experience of how I was taught in my house and in the church. And when I say purity, what I mean is pure from sex outside of marriage, sex before marriage, anything to resemble sex before marriage, any movie that has sexual whatever in it, and even the thoughts that you are thinking that could be doing with sex, or not even the sex part, but anything leading up to a sexual act, a sexual thought, a sexual movie, a sexual, literally anything. That is purity. Not doing those things, that is considered purity. Essentially, anything that would lead you up to sex, the thoughts of leading up to sex, the thoughts before leading up to sex, all of that, or not even sex, but any sexual encounter, any, kissing more than you should, anything like that, that was frowned upon, and that was really shamed, honestly. And in the church, and even in my house, sex was talked about religiously, really. It was talked a lot about, but only in the sense of sex only being good and even holy when you are with one person, and that one person being your spouse. Anything outside of that was frowned upon, was shamed, condemned, and impure. And honestly, it always seemed as though if you were a virgin, you were held to a certain standard above the girls. Like, so I'm coming at it as in like a youth group. So if you were a virgin, you were held to a different standard, and you were held to a different pedestal, like a higher pedestal than the girls who chose, or I mean, some girls didn't choose, but the ones who were not a virgin, we were held higher than those who were no longer virgins. And for a moment, oh, for the love of God, oh, for the love of God, for a moment, let me pause and tell you that this girl wanted a Virginity Rocks t-shirt. Hold on, I don't think you really heard me. I wanted a Virginity Rocks t-shirt. Let that sink in for a moment. That is a moment in my life where I'm so happy that my mom said, no, we're not doing that. But I was like, Mom, virginity is so awesome. I love it. I'd never done anything. I'd never even kissed a boy at that point. So I had zero idea what I was talking about. My mom was coming from a, hey, let's not tell the world that you're a virgin. Let's not tell, people out there that start with the letter P out there that you're a virgin, because that's not good. But I was like, I want the world to know that I'm good and holy and well deserving of love from God. That's literally why I wanted it, so I could tell the world that I was good enough, that God loved me because I wasn't having sex. Lovely. And while I was getting this video ready, the script, the whatever, when I was like, okay, we're talking about modest, hottest, and purity culture, a memory came back to me, and I honestly looked up. I tried to look up the sermon again so I could put it in the thumbnail, but I couldn't find it. I don't think it was a video. I think it was just like an MP3, like an audio somebody had given me. Because I don't remember at the moment watching something. I remember listening to something, so maybe it's not on YouTube. But I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it, which really bothers me. But in the church that I grew up in when I was a teenager, there was a couple there. I loved them so much, and they only did the best they could with the information they had at the time. She gave me an audio of a church sermon, and I kid you not, the church sermon was about healing of the woman's hymen. Like, I don't think it was actually entitled that, but the basis and the basis of the whole entire sermon was healing of the woman's vagina who have had sex. Meaning, if there were women in this church service who have had sex before marriage or whatever, any sexual encounter, then through this church service, her hymen could be healed, therefore magically becoming a virgin again. Because clearly, being a virgin equals you are loved and acceptable to God. Anything else is less than, and we don't have that. So, if you don't know what a hymen is, let me share some anatomy with you. The hymen is a piece of tissue inside of the opening of the vagina. It's said that once you have sex, your hymen tears and it causes a little bit of bleeding. However, that's been debunked, and there are many things that can tear a woman's hymen even before she has sex. So if you're in gymnastics or you're in dance or any type of sport that requires flexibility, you might have torn your hymen even if you haven't had sex. So years ago, when couples would get married, they would actually, like, during their reception, they would consummate the marriage not in front of people. I mean, I'm talking long time ago. They wouldn't consummate in front of people, but they would go behind, like, sometimes even just a curtain, and everybody would be waiting, like, oh my god, and they would actually throw because in that time they really believed that the only thing that could tear hymen was sex, so they would throw over a cloth that had blood on it, essentially proving that yes, she was a virgin, like, yes, we are good to go. But my question is, like, did a man have anything that proved that? Absolutely not. So it's just the woman, right? So they would throw over a little cloth that had blood on it to represent she was holy, she was pure. Now we actually consummate the marriage. Now on to the rest of the video with Bethany, who is fully clothed and who's been awake for a while. So in this church service, these women were being shamed for having sex and tearing their hymen. So now their hymen was going to be healed, so they were magically virgins again. Let's unpack this real quick because there are so many things wrong with this hymen church service. And just to say hymen church service in a title is freaking bananas, right? Like, it's freaking insane. Number one, the pastor belittling and shaming these women to believing they were wrong, they were bad, they were gross, and even gross enough to pray for this tissue to come back in between their legs to equal, acceptable, beautiful, and honoring to God is a man. I mean, listen, I don't condone this way of teaching by any means. It's freaking nuts. However, if there's going to be a pastor speaking to women about their vaginas during church, I feel as though it should be a woman. Anybody else? Do you feel like that? Because I do. I think we all can agree, right? Right. Number two, this whole sermon had everything to do with women's bodies being different and, God willing, more wholesome. But there was no special prayer of any kind for the men who have had sex before marriage. Oh yeah, there were men there. Can we just address how uncomfortable these women must have been going into a church, going into the four walls of a church, thinking it's going to be a regular church service, and bam. Okay, ladies, who's had sex before? Okay, you and you. Okay, cool. So just letting you know that you're really, really gross and you're unwholesome, and you know God doesn't want you the way that you are. So we're going to be talking about your vaginas, but the men in here, oh, y'all are totally fine. No big deal. Y'all can just listen to a male pastor talking about women's vaginas. Cool, we ready to go? Okay, let's pray. It's messed up. Number three, manipulating someone to believe that their body needs to physically change to be loved and accepted by man and by God. It makes me so extremely sad to think of all the women, because of this church service, now correlates physical body change to love and acceptance. This is not okay. And to stand at the pulpit to point fingers and say that you are unacceptable, you are not good enough if you've had sex with more than one partner and you've had sex before you're married. It's not okay. And you don't have to come out and say, okay, you're broken, right? That pastor didn't actually come out and say those words. However, to have a sermon wrapped around praying for a physical healing in your body to be acceptable and loved to God, that's how they're going to correlate that. That literally means that your body and you are not good enough to be loved and accepted. You don't have to necessarily come out and say broken if you are literally praying that God will heal your hymen. It indicates two things. Number one, that there's something wrong with your hymen. And number two, that there's something that needs to be fixed. I wish that we were taught that honoring your body and fixing your body are two way different things. You are able to honor your body no matter what you have done, the choices you've made, what you believe in. You do not have to fix anything. You are not broken. You are not broken. You don't have to fix anything. For the love of God, honor your body the way that it is. Honor your body instead of trying to fix your body. Because in the fixing energy, there's something broken. You are not broken. There's one thing to carry your own belief of purity before marriage. And if that resonates with you, that's fantastic. Like, do that. That resonates with you. However, it's a whole other conversation to cast blame, to make someone feel guilty, to shame and condemn. If you are anywhere and you are experiencing condemnation and shame for what you're doing, girl, get out. Get out. There's a difference between being self-aware of what you're doing, and Christians like to call it conviction. So if you're aware of doing something and it no longer serves you, or deep down you feel as though you shouldn't be doing it, we should dive further into that and see where that feeling is coming from and to see why you believe you shouldn't be doing that. But if you are feeling the condemnation, the guilt, the shame that someone else has cast on you, that's different, and that should be addressed, and you should get out. Because it's not love. That is not love. And I don't care if it's in the church. It is not love. It's not love. I'm not saying every single church condemns. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if you're experiencing that in the church, go find another one. Like, it's not okay. It's not okay. Again, if you are feeling as though, like, oh, I don't know if I should be doing this thing, like deep down, I'm not, blah, 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 whatever. Again, that's another thing that could be addressed. And we should dive in further to see why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. That is important. Condemnation, guilt, and shame are different. Okay, now on to another topic of modest is hottest. Modest is hottest. I was the biggest advocate of modest is hottest. I remember teaching a group of young girls in church to not wear skinny jeans because it outlined too much of your body. That happened. That was a thing. That was a real thing. Okay. In the church, women, okay, this topic that we're about to get into really came up for me when I asked myself, why aren't Christian women the most confident women, secure women ever? I asked myself, why does it seem as though Christian women don't take care of themselves often, don't take care of their bodies? They don't honor and love their bodies. And this, girlfriend, this is what I found. This is what I found. And it all stems from purity culture. It all stems from modest is hottest. Let's dive right on in. Okay. We were made to believe that our bodies were walking temptation bombs for men. We were taught so much about sexual immorality instead of being taught how to love and honor our bodies. And I believe that that is the key to why a lot of Christian women are so insecure with their bodies and why they aren't very confident within themselves and who they truly are. Because a lot of the conversation about sex was negative, was bad, we're only having sex with this one person and anything out of that is bad. What I am not saying is having sex outside of, like, when you're married, having outside. That's not what I'm saying. For the love of God, don't twist my words, please. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is having sex before, you're married, or if you're going to be married, whatever. You don't have to get married. That's fine. But every conversation that we would have about sex would be bad, would be negative, would be, don't do that or you're sinning, because sinning equals bad. And when you're sinning, you're not good enough for God. And if you're not good enough for God, your heart's not right with God. And then it's a circle, right? It's a circle of shame, condemnation, and guilt. I truly believe if we were taught to love, honor, and cherish our bodies as sacred, beautiful women, that would have correlated into loving and honoring our sexual selves, and not feeling bad for sex, but learning and being okay with our own sexuality. Because in the sexual conversations of everything is bad, everything is unwholesome, you begin to believe that our bodies are bad, because a woman's body equals temptation for a man. Therefore, we should cover up every inch of our body, because if we don't, it's going to be on our hands if they are tempted. No, for the love of God, no. Because do you ever remember, because I sure don't, I do not remember one time my family talking to my brothers, or even in the church talking to the youth sponsors, or the pastor talking to the boys about sexuality, and not to gawk at a woman, or women go through this change, let's not stare at their boobs, right? No, the women are taught to cover that. We're taught to wear the knee shorts, we're taught that it's okay to wear 2X freaking clothes instead of harnessing and loving the curves of our body. The God literally created women to have the curves and to have the boobs. So why in the world would we cover all of that? I'm not condoning to, dress your 13-year-old in skimpy clothes by any means. I mean, let's have some awareness of that. But what I'm saying is not to make our curves and our body such a demonizing thing that if we wore a shirt that had a logo on it, that was me. I wasn't allowed to wear shirts with logos on it because it would draw too much attention to my boobs, because I've had big boobs, all my life. So I wasn't able to wear those types of shirts because it would draw too much attention. How about we teach the boys not to make girls feel uncomfortable for that, right? And I never wanted to wear the right size that I fit into, because it would be too tight. I wouldn't feel good in it because my boobs were coming out too bad. Where was there cleavage? Could you see side boob? Could you see anything? Absolutely not. You could see you could see my boobs like a normal freaking human. But since I was made to believe that they were way too big, and they were too much of a distraction, I wasn't going to be the one leading a man down the wrong path because of my God-given freaking boobs. Not me, not this one, not today, Satan. So what I would do is just fully clothe myself so every inch of my body, every inch of my curves would be non-exposed. And that wasn't out of anything besides hating my body and being shamed for the body that God gave me because I didn't want to tempt somebody to whatever. Instead of those boys or those men or whatever being taught not to do those things. So all of this came from a question. Like I had said before, the question of why are so many Christian women feeling so bad in their bodies? Why aren't they confident? And it's because we were made to believe that covering up equals good and good equals wholesome for God. So if we decided to wear something very, very cute and, we were starting to grow boobs and we were starting to look like women and we put something cute on, for somebody to say, I call them the Karens of the church, for someone to say, why do you want so much attention? Why are you wearing that? You shouldn't get attention from boys. If you wear that, you're going to get the wrong attention. And what I'm saying is, clothes that freaking fit your body. I'm not saying, some skimpy whatever, whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is just normal clothes that fit your body that was complementary to what you looked like, right? Complementary to what you look like. And it takes one person to shame you into believing, oh, you're wearing that to get attention? You shouldn't be wearing that. That's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. So then if that's happening when you're younger, you're going to start to believe that, oh, my size, the size that I wear that complements my body is inappropriate. I shouldn't wear that because I don't want that attention. I just want to feel cute, right? So then when you're getting older, you're choosing this type of style because you don't want someone to think that you're doing something you're not doing. Is this making sense? So it starts when you were young and made to believe that covering up your body was good. And when you're older, you're still choosing because that was a belief that was programmed inside of you from other people, from your parents, through the Karens of the church, through whatever, through the cousin that saw you, trying on the shorter shorts than Bermuda shorts, right? You were choosing a style that looked good on your body. You go, girl, let's get it. And then it takes that one person to say, that's too much. That's too much. Boys, they're going to look at you. How about I want to wear something that complements my body structure and my body and makes me feel so good and beautiful. And how about you tell that boy not to stare, not to gawk, be honoring of the woman's body without being freaking weird about it. I'm starting to believe alongside any Sunday school class needs to be a love and respect, honor and cherish your body class. Because I really feel if there was more protocol in the church of little girls loving their body and loving themselves for how God truly made them, that would inevitably allow them to love, honor, and cherish themselves growing up so much that they're going to choose to put clothes on that they feel respects them. They're going to choose to be with the boys that love and respect them. Does that make sense? So it's not about the right clothes that you wear, the wrong clothes that you wear to be and or not be love and acceptable to God. That's not it at all. I feel as though it always stems back to you, coming back to you. What is honorable, loving, and accepting to me? Where do I feel as though I need to honor and love my body more? Bringing yourself back to you, I feel, is the key to this corrupt purity culture. And I understand, I get why my mom was so about purity, because she didn't want me to have sex, therefore having a baby, right? I get that, and I understand that she did the best she could with the information and the beliefs that she had. So I also don't want you to think that these people are shaming, condemning, having you feel guilty because they're terrible people. Like, we don't necessarily point fingers here. We're making light to the thing, so you're educated on what's happening. But they're also doing the best of their ability with the information that they have, because that's what they were taught as well. So they're only teaching you what they have been taught by the church, by their parents, by other Karens in the church, whatever. So they're teaching you these things. I mean, unless the person's like fucking terrible, but that's not what I'm talking about. You know, they're telling you and teaching you those things so you can make the correct choices, so you can, you know, live the best life. But what is the light that needs to be shown here is that through trying to protect you, you start to have the belief of covering up, not loving my body equals being closer to God. The less I am from my body, the less that I have showing, the less of a temptation that I am to other people, the more accepting and pleasing and loving I am to God. And that's not it at all. You want to love, cherish, respect. Oh my God, respect and honor. Honor is such a huge word for me right now. Honoring your body. How do I feel as though I need to honor my body in this moment? And wearing clothes that honor you and that love, that you love and that you respect, will also allow you to walk a little differently, will boost that confidence in yourself. It'll change the physiology of your body. You'll stand up taller, your chin will be held higher, and you'll walk with a little different oomph, right? If you are feeling so confident and loved within your body, and you're wearing the types of clothes that you are so in love with, knowing that you're doing it for you and not other people, that is important. That is important. It's not about the clothes that you're wearing. It's how you're feeling on the inside. I feel like we miss it so badly with purity culture, because purity culture is tearing away from loving and cherishing you and being so in love with yourself. Being so in love and in tune with yourself, in what you want, and who you are, and what your needs are, and what your desires and passions are. And that is true freedom, really. And that is the life-changing aspect that I feel is really, really harming people in modest, hottest, and purity culture, and Christians in purity. When I say like non-pure, I'm not saying like, hey, go have sex with everybody that you see. That's not what I'm saying. I just want us to get so far away from the condemning and the shaming and the making other people feel guilty for those things, because ultimately we do not have to change any part of us to be of love and to love and for God to love us, because we are already acceptable. You are already loved. You are already so acceptable and beautiful, and again, you are not broken. So I feel as though if we had a class or a course in the church of really honing in on, you are not broken. You are not broken. You don't need to fix anything. You don't. You really, really don't. We just need to come back to us and to really fully love and embrace who we are without feeling the shame and the guilt and the condemnation. Because I'll tell you a little story. I was not allowed to date until I was 16. And in the household, like I was telling you, when sex was talked about, it was all bad. It was all bad. The only positive thing I ever heard about sex was from my mom when she said the only time sex is good is when you are married, and oh my gosh, it is so much fun. It is so much fun when you're married. And she would over celebrate the married and fun and the sex part, but she would over demonize anything else. So, you know, when you start dating somebody, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to freaking touch you. I don't even want to kiss you. I don't want to do anything that's going to make me feel feelings. I don't know what the feelings are or where they're coming from, right? So I started dating this boy when we were, I think he was 15, I was 16, or we were both 16, and we didn't kiss. I dated him when I was 16. We didn't have our first kiss until 17. I was 17, and the first day we started dating, in our house, we had a huge chair that can easily fit 2 people, and we had a recliner, and I told him, I was like, I'm not ready for you to sit next to me. I'm not ready. So he sat in the recliner, and we just held hands like that. I wasn't ready for you to sit next to me. Like, what? And it was only because I was scared of what was going to happen. And so when we kissed, and we started kissing a lot, because that was the only thing that we're able to do, I had so many questions. I went to one of the women in the church, and I was like, hey, how much can you kiss? And she asked me, she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, I know that making out is not okay because it leads to other things, which it honestly doesn't. Can you make out before sex? Sure. Are you always making out before sex? No. So does it really lead to it? Not all the freaking time, right? Now I know. But when I asked her, I was so shameful over the natural feelings that I was having and the questions that I was having. So I asked her, you know, how much can you kiss for what time? I was like, how much time can I kiss him? Does it matter where my tongue's at? Like, but I wasn't asking because I was like, oh my God, I want to be a good kisser. No, it was like, I don't want to go to hell. How do I kiss? Literally. I want to be good in God's eyes. How long do I kiss? Like, how messed up is that? And it was only because I wasn't taught any of that. Not saying, like, if you're a mom, you have to teach your kid, like, okay, kissing, but no, not that. But it was the negative relationship that I had with sex that had me believe that I was even better than anybody who was having sex, right? I'll be the first to tell you that 100%. I did believe that, because if you're not having sex, or if you're not doing those make-outy things, if you're not touching, whatever, then clearly you are closer to God, and God's going to use you more because you are more acceptable to God. No. Effing no. So I did ask her, can I open my mouth while I kiss him? I don't know if I should use my tongue or not, kind of thing. And she never really answered my question. I think she was more like over it than me, because for me at that time I was like, it's my salvation on the line here. I can't jack this up. Heavens to Betty. But when I asked her that, she was like, it is all up to you. Meaning, I get what she means now, but at that time I was like, no. Like, I need a written permission slip of what I should or should not do to this boy. And she had said that it's all up to you. It's whatever you find that pleases God, essentially. Like, your own conviction can only tell you how far you can go, really. which that didn't tell me anything at the time. It did not tell me anything at the time. I was still so confused. So I tell you that to explain how lost I was sexually, how misinformed, uneducated, out of alignment with my own body I was during that time. And let me tell you something else. Let me be frank with you and tell you something else. The first time I had sex, I was 23. The first time I had sex, I was 23. And after, my brain went from, that is what I spent years feeling bad for, of potentially doing or leading up to. I was so, what's the word I can use? I was so like, this 5 second, like, don't judge, right? This moment in time, this thing that just happened that, let's be honest, wasn't even that enjoyable, and I really don't remember that much of it. That is what everybody has been shaming me about and shaming everybody else about. I'm like, in what freaking world? And then I even thought to myself, I was like, I even kind of prayed a little bit. I was like, God, is this really almost important as salvation? Because I feel as though salvation and sex are way on different spectrums right now, because that was really, like, really, God? And from there, I was like, this is, I battled a lot with that, you know, because of past programming and beliefs and things. And to be honest, that partner caused a lot of sexual trauma for me in the past, things that I have had to heal from and work through. But I'm telling you, at that moment, I was like, oh my God. But that is something I had to navigate through, and here we are. And through that journey of, you know, navigation, I had to fully and completely fall in love with who I am. And through that, I created boundaries of who I talk to, man-wise, who I talk to, who I want dates with. The more I started falling in love with me and understanding me and trusting me, that is when those men that I attracted that I didn't want anything to do with really started falling on the wayside. Like, I don't even want to touch you. And it just goes to show, the more that you fall in love with you, and the more that you trust in you, and the more that you honor you, those things are going to come naturally. Those, I have red flags. I don't think, like, we're a good match, or, like, I don't want to touch you again. Like, I don't want to do those things with you. You are going to want to honor yourself so much that you're going to inevitably make the best decisions for you and not for anybody else. So I say all of that to say, I think instead of purity culture and modest is hottest, it should be labeled as love yourself more culture, honor yourself more culture, trust yourself more culture, cherish yourself more culture. I feel as though that is the exact answer. Okay, we're going to wrap up here because I'm super hot and I'm sweating a lot. So I love you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I love and appreciate you. And remember, you are the greatest of all time. Oh, don't forget to do the little bell thing. I'll put it somewhere so you'll remember. Thank you so much. I will talk to you next week. Bye.